Today in OMIS675, we're going to talk about information dashboards. Information dashboards offer us a view into everything going on in our organization. The history of information dashboards, historically referred to as Executive Information Systems, or EIS, give us a single pane of glass look into key performance indicators, or KPI, of a business or business unit, showing things like sales, revenue, store performance. These are widely used components by multiple layers of organization to monitor information. We can see server status alerts, wide area network performance. One of the big consumers of information dashboards are network operation centers. Seen here is AT&T's Global Network Operation Center. If you Google dashboards, you will in fact see multiple information dashboards and not dashboards out of your car. Here are some examples of dashboards. We can see red, yellow, green gauges representing bad, good, warning status. Another example showing time periods, predicted sales. This one has some gauges, temperature type gauges. This one has a steering wheel. What do they all have in common? Well, the examples I've showed you all take the dashboard metaphor very literal. You can see they all have a speedometer type gauge, a red, a warning, and a green indicator. Some of them, the red is on the left, some of them, the red is on the right. The definition of an information dashboard is a visual display of the most important information needed to achieve one or more objectives, which fits entirely on a single computer screen, so it can be monitored at a glance. I've taken this definition as well as some of these examples from a book called Information Dashboard Design by Stephen Few, The Effective Visual Communication of Data. Here we see a good dashboard. So what makes this a good dashboard? Well, the data seems clear, seems to stick out, is pronounced. We can see wait time, query, CPU, memory, disk. What makes a bad dashboard? Well, this kind of looks like a bad dashboard. Excessive use of color. Not a very clear indication of what this describes. So what are some common mistakes? Well, here are 13. Exceeding the boundaries of a single screen. Number 2, supplying inadequate context for the data. Displaying excessive detail or precision. Choosing a deficient measure. Choosing inappropriate display media. Introducing meaningless variety. Using poorly designed display media. Encoding quantitative data incorrectly, inaccurately. Arranging the data poorly. Number 10, highlighting important data ineffectively or not at all. Cluttering the display with useless decoration. Misusing or overusing color. And lastly, designing an unattractive visual display. So let's see some of these mistakes in action. Here we see an example of exceeding the boundaries of a single screen. The dashboard fragments the data in a way that undermines the viewer's ability to see meaningful relationships. We must bounce between screens to see different data. Here we're supplying inadequate context for the data. We can see units, year-to-date units, return rate. We don't know if that's good or bad, or what the goal is. Display excessive detail and precision. Here we can see the date timestamp down to the second. We can see precision way too far past the decimal point. All these extra digits seem to clutter up the screen, disguising the data. Choosing a deficient measure. A measure is deficient if it isn't the one that most clearly and efficiently communicates the meaning that the dashboard viewer should discern. Here we have two elements, a budget and an actual. We can tell there's difference in the two. A better way to describe that data might be to use a variance chart, where budget is a flat line and the variance of the actual is portrayed in a percentage. Choosing inappropriate display media. What do we know about a pie chart? A pie chart shows parts of a whole. The whole should be 100%. Here in this chart we can tell by the percentages and the visual display of the pies that this is not 100%. Here, the chart creator uses circles and some colors. What's unclear is what is the size of those circles. Does that mean anything? And in this example, there's several similar looking pieces of pie. We can't see the relation until we put it in a much clearer form. Characteristics of a well-designed dashboard. Simplify, simplify, simplify. Be exceptionally well organized, condensed. Be primarily in the form of summaries and exceptions. Specific to and customized for the dashboard's audience and objectives. Displayed using concise and often small media that communicate the data and its message in the clearest and most direct way possible. If I had more time, I would write a shorter letter. The next few slides are taken from some of the books that Edward Tufte wrote. One of the books, Visual Display of Quantitative Information, shows this statistical graphic being one of the best graphics ever drawn in Tufte's opinion. On the left-hand side, where the gold column is the widest, we see a representation of Napoleon's army, 400,000 strong, marching to the right towards Moscow. As they reach Moscow, the army shrinks, and then as they recede from Moscow, in black, you can see the size of the army shrinking and shrinking. And on the bottom, you can see the temperature also getting colder and colder. So an army that was 400,000 men when it left Poland returned to Poland at 10,000 men. When quantitative data is displayed in printed form, some of that ink appears on the page, presents data, and some presents visual context that is not data, also known as non-data. Here in the red, we see non-data. Tufte describes this phenomenon as the data-ink ratio, and he says a large share of ink on a graphic should present data information, the ink changing as the data change. Data ink is the non-erasable core of a graphic, the non-redundant ink arranged in response to variation in the numbers represented. Then, data ink ratio equals data ink over total ink used to print the graphic. In other words, we should maximize the data ink ratio within reason. Every bit of ink on a graphic requires a reason, and nearly always that reason should be that the ink presents new information, says Tufte. This dashboard displays an excessive amount of non-data pixels. As you can see in the upper left column chart, rather the bar chart, there's grid lines. There's a decoration of a pattern in the background. There's three-dimensional bars with colors that we don't know what they mean. In the bottom left, there's three-dimensional cylinders. And we also see the company's logo. None of this is providing or embellishing the data. Rather, these are non-essential, non-data elements. Tufte says to eliminate variations in color that don't encode any meaning. In the left chart, we can see countries along the x-axis and numbers along the y-axis. We don't know what those colors in the bars mean. The same data is displayed much clearer with the solid color. Here, the chart creator chose to use gradient colors in the background as well as gradient colors in the bars. This is distracting. This is non-data, and it's extra work for our eyes to do. Grid lines are often unnecessary. A common practice is to print reports off with the grid lines highlighted, which actually makes our eyes work harder to see the data. As you can see on the right-hand line, the data itself delineates the rows and columns. Without the grid lines, we can see the data much clearer. Eliminate third dimensions of a bar chart unless the third dimension portrays data. Use subtle borders and fill colors. In the left-hand graphic, we can see data which looks fine, outlined by a bold line. And we see on the right-hand side, if we take away that bold line and use a more subtle, soft line, our eyes are drawn to the data. The same holds true for the bottom example. On the top of the bottom example, you can see solid, bold lines. And on the bottom, when those bold lines are removed, our eyes can actually see the numbers, the raw data, much clearer. This is a big no. This is an unattractive dashboard. Let's not do that. Let's do this. Make your own dashboard in Lab 11 using ASP.NET charts. You'll show your servers down, servers in warning states, open and closed tickets. Good luck.